Okay, so um, we're going to talk about two figures.
Okay.
Both charismatic,
Uh-huh.
both challenging the status quo, but like in really different ways.
Yeah.
One, a spiritual leader preaching love and sacrifice. The other, a total agent of chaos, like focused on self-destruction.
Interesting.
So do you see any parallels between like Jesus
Hmm.
and Tyler Durden from Fight Club?
At first glance, maybe not.
Yeah,
But if you think about it,
yeah,
they both had a serious problem with materialism.
right. Like they both had a
Mhm.
bone to pick with it.
Totally.
It's fascinating how they both just like so fiercely rejected the whole idea of like pursuing wealth and status,
Yeah.
but for totally different reasons.
Absolutely, for very different
It's
reasons.
like they just,
Yeah.
they saw right through it.
Uh-huh.
All that stuff we chase after,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
the fancy cars, the bigger
Right.
houses.
Right.
It makes you think like maybe it's just a distraction from something bigger.
Definitely a distraction.
Yeah.
With Jesus, the focus is on like spiritual wealth, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like true happiness comes from connecting with something bigger than yourself, not just like accumulating all this stuff.
Makes sense.
But Tyler Durden, he's all about like rejecting consumerism
Oh yeah, you hate that.
as a form of control.
Hmm.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
sees corporations as like enslaving us with this desire for more, more, more.
It's like we're programmed
Yeah.
almost.
Kind of brainwashed.
Yeah. And he takes it to the extreme.
He does.
I mean, blowing up credit card records.
Yeah, oh yeah.
That's a pretty radical way to free people from debt.
It is pretty radical.
Do you think he has a point, though?
You know?
Like, with all the advertising
Yeah.
we're just bombarded with constantly?
Online, yeah.
It does make you wonder if we're, like,
Right.
being programmed to want things we don't even need.
Totally. I think
Oh.
that's a very provocative point.
Interesting.
And I think both figures, despite their like vastly different methods,
Uh-huh.
seem to understand that true freedom
Yeah.
comes from somewhere deeper than just accumulating possessions.
Yeah.
They wanted their followers to find meaning and purpose
Yeah.
beyond the material world.
Right. And they both went about it by shaking things up.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, neither one of them was afraid to challenge authority,
No, they weren't.
even if it meant putting themselves at risk.
Exactly.
Jesus, for example, he directly challenged the hypocrisy of
Yeah.
all the religious leaders of his time.
Of the Pharisees and the Sadducees.
Yeah, he saw their focus on all the rituals and the rules.
Yeah.
Like a total betrayal of what really mattered.
Right.
Like compassion and genuine faith and helping others.
Absolutely. Those are the things that
Yeah.
matter to him.
And, you know, he paid the price for it.
He did.
He's put on trial, condemned, and ultimately, well, you know the story.
Yeah. Everyone knows the story.
But Tyler's rebellion,
Yeah.
that was obviously a lot more chaotic.
Oh, yeah. Definitely a lot more.
Chaotic?
I mean, Fight Club.
Yeah.
That was his way of like pushing back
Yeah.
against what he saw as like a soul-crushing system,
Totally.
this consumer culture
Yeah.
that was emasculating men.
Right. He thought it was making them weak.
Yeah, he wanted them to like break free from all those expectations.
Break free from society's expectations.
To embrace their primal instincts.
Yeah.
To find their own power.
Exactly.
His methods were pretty violent, though.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's hard to argue that setting off explosions and like fighting in basements is the best way to achieve self-awareness.
I don't know if that's in any self-help books.
But maybe there's a common thread here. Like, both of them were trying to jolt people out of their complacency.
Right.
Make them question why they were living the way they were living.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a really insightful observation.
Oh, thanks.
It wasn't enough for either of them to just change people's outward behavior.
Right. They wanted to, like, spark a true inner transformation.
Yeah, it's like they were both saying, wake up.
Wake up!
There's more to life than this.
Yes.
Exactly. But, I mean, Jesus offers a path to spiritual rebirth.
Yeah.
To salvation.
Mm-hmm.
But Tyler's is more about this, like, raw, primal self-discovery.
Right.
Even if it gets pretty messy.
Even if it gets messy and violent.
Exactly.
But they're both offering a vision of liberation.
Yeah.
But they take very different routes to get there.
They do.
Yeah.
And both of them ended up with these, like, intensely devoted followers.
Totally.
You could even argue that their groups had some, like, cult-like dynamics.
A little bit, yeah.
So what do you think it was about their message that inspired such dedication?
Well, humans crave connection and purpose and sense of belonging.
Uh-huh.
And both Jesus and Tyler offered that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So Jesus gathered disciples who spread his teachings and formed the early church. Yeah.
They were united by their faith and their love for him.
Interesting.
And Tyler, he created Fight Club, which, like, evolved into Project Mayhem.
Right.
A much more structured organization.
Yeah.
Even, like, militant,
Right, with its own, like, strict rules.
Totally.
Yeah, and a shared mission of just disruption.
Yeah. Shake things up.
It wasn't about love and compassion at all.
No, it wasn't about making the world a better place. It was about rejecting conformity and, like, shaking up the system.
And it's so wild how similar the structures are.
It is.
I mean, both groups had secret meetings, rituals.
Yeah, secret handshakes.
Like a sense of belonging that outsiders just didn't get.
Totally an us versus them mentality.
And on that note, let's talk about sacrifice.
Okay.
Both Jesus and Tyler had this experience of symbolic death and then resurgence.
Yeah. Okay.
It's true.
Yeah. That parallel is really striking.
It is.
With Jesus.
Yeah.
The crucifixion and resurrection are at the very core of Christian faith.
Yeah. The most important part.
Representing the ultimate sacrifice.
Right.
And victory over death itself.
It's a heavy concept.
It's heavy stuff.
Yeah.
And Tyler stages his own death.
He does.
To let this alter ego take over.
Crazy.
Not exactly the same, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's like a twisted form of rebirth, right?
It is. It's like a very strange form of rebirth.
Yeah.
It is interesting how they both understood this idea that something has to be destroyed in order for something new to be created.
Right.
For Jesus.
Yeah.
It's about self-sacrifice, leading to spiritual salvation.
Right.
But Tyler,
it's
more like liberation through self-destruction.
Yeah.
Which is a lot darker, obviously.
Wait, a lot darker.
Uh-huh.
It makes you think.
It does.
Both of their stories still resonate so strongly today.
They really do.
Maybe it's because we're still wrestling with these same issues.
I think that's a big part of it.
We're still grappling with materialism.
Yeah.
With authority. With, like, figuring out who we really are.
Those age-old questions that we've been asking ourselves for centuries.
You're right.
I think you're right.
Those themes are timeless.
They are.
And that might be why stories like these are so powerful.
They make us...
They force us to confront those big questions.
The big questions about life.
They really do.
Yeah.
And they both use such interesting methods to communicate their messages. It's like they both understood the power of storytelling.
Totally.
And metaphor.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jesus used parables.
Yeah, those little stories.
Yeah, those simple stories with deeper meaning.
With a hidden message.
Yeah, that illustrated spiritual truths.
Like the parable of the Good Samaritan.
Oh, yeah.
Which teaches about compassion and like helping those in need.
Yeah.
Even if they're like considered an enemy.
Yeah, even if you don't like them.
Exact.
Those stories are so clever.
They are.
They get right to the heart of the matter.
And Tyler, while he doesn't tell parables,
right,
he uses storytelling in a powerful way too.
He does.
Think about the way he paints this picture of a world gone wrong.
Right.
A world consumed by consumerism.
Yeah.
And conformity.
Right.
He's a master manipulator, no doubt.
No doubt.
But his words are so vivid and shocking.
Yeah.
They really get under your skin.
They do.
It's no wonder people were drawn to him.
And speaking of challenging norms,
okay,
they both had something to say about traditional masculinity, too.
You're right, they did.
Jesus was radical for his time.
He was.
Rejecting violence and aggression.
Right.
Preaching love and forgiveness.
Turn the other cheek.
That was completely counter to the dominant Roman culture.
Absolutely.
He embodied a different kind of strength.
Yeah.
One rooted in compassion and inner peace.
Very different from the Roman ideal.
And those values are still so relevant today.
They are.
It seems like we could all use a little more of that.
A little more compassion, a little more forgiveness.
Yeah, in our world.
Sure.
Don't you think?
I couldn't agree more.
And Tyler, while he seems to promote violence, he's actually subverting traditional masculinity in his own way.
In a very strange way.
He critiques the pressure on men to be these emotionless, hyper-successful machines.
Very tough.
Yeah.
Very successful.
He encourages them to embrace their vulnerability, their emotions.
Yeah, show your feelings.
To reject that alpha male archetype.
Exactly.
You're right.
Yeah.
He's saying it's okay.
Yeah.
To be scared, to feel pain.
It's okay to be human.
To be different.
Yeah.
He channels all that into some pretty messed up stuff, sure.
He does. He definitely does.
But the point is, he's challenging the status quo.
He's a provocateur.
He is.
He wants to get a reaction.
You're right.
He's exposing the dark side of masculinity. Like the repressed emotions and anxieties that can build up when men try to conform to those rigid expectations.
It's dangerous.
It is.
But it highlights the limitations of those traditional roles.
Totally. Those boxes that society tries to put us in.
And both Jesus and Tyler used symbolic language.
Yeah.
So effective.
So symbols.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jesus used metaphors.
Okay.
Drawn from nature.
Yeah.
And daily life.
Yeah.
To make those spiritual concepts relatable.
Because you'd understand.
Like the vine and the branches.
Oh,
the sower and the seed. The lost sheep.
Yeah. The prodigal son.
Right.
So many good stories.
Such powerful imagery.
Yeah.
It resonates with people on such a deep level.
It really does.
And Tyler, he uses symbolism too.
Yeah.
But his is darker.
It is much darker.
More visceral.
Yeah.
Sometimes even grotesque.
Totally. Like that soap he made.
Oh yeah, what was that about?
From liposuctioned fat.
Yeah.
A symbol of purification.
Okay.
But also the grotesque excesses
Right.
of consumer culture.
Yeah.
It's meant to shock you.
It does.
It's meant to make you think.
It makes you think for sure.
And it definitely stays with you.
It does for sure.
Doesn't it?
Speaking of staying with you.
Okay.
Both of them had a very specific way of dealing with suffering.
Interesting.
Jesus obviously went through unimaginable physical and emotional pain.
Yeah, he suffered a lot.
But there was also the betrayal.
Yeah.
The abandonment. The burden of humanity's sins.
Yeah. The weight of the world on his shoulders.
Yeah, on his shoulders.
Literally.
And he took it on willingly.
He did.
Believing it was the only way to redeem humanity.
A selfless act.
It's hard to wrap your head around.
It is.
But it's at the core of Christian faith.
That idea of sacrifice and redemption.
Right.
It's central.
Tyler, though, he embraces suffering.
Yeah.
As the key to self-discovery and liberation.
Through pain.
Right.
Confront your pain head on.
Mm.
Break free from your limitations. That's his approach.
That's a pretty intense path.
It is.
I mean, sometimes it feels more about self-destruction.
Right.
Than self-actualization.
More about tearing things down.
Yeah. Don't you think?
There's definitely a darkness to it.
Yeah, there is.
It can be dangerous.
Yeah.
But it also reflects how many people feel in modern society.
Yeah.
That pain.
Yeah.
And disillusionment.
Right. That feeling of being lost.
Tyler's embracing suffering, however twisted it might be, speaks to that need to find meaning in pain, to transcend our limitations.
It's interesting how their views on suffering really tie back to their core messages.
Right.
Jesus offers redemption through sacrifice.
Right.
Tyler offers a much darker, more destructive kind of liberation.
It's a very different path.
But they both challenge us to think differently.
To question our assumptions.
They really do.
Yeah.
And it makes you think.
It does.
Why are these figures still so relevant? It's remarkable, isn't it?
It is. It really is.
Maybe it's because they tap into something universal.
Yeah.
About the human experience.
Right.
This search for meaning.
That desire to find our place in the world.
The desire for connection. The struggle between good and evil.
The classic battle.
They're both larger-than-life figures.
Yeah.
Almost archetypes.
They represent something bigger than themselves.
Like they embody both the darkness and the light that we all have.
Right, we all have that potential
within us.
For good and for bad.
And even though their stories are from such different times.
Yeah, different worlds, really.
They give us this fascinating lens through which to view our own lives and the challenges we face today.
I think you're right about that.
It's true.
Yeah.
Their stories offer us timeless wisdom.
They do.
Encourage us.
To question everything.
Yeah.
To seek out our own truths.
To find our own paths.
Yeah.
To fulfillment.
To happiness, to meaning.
And sometimes those paths are messy, uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And definitely not straightforward.
Life is rarely a straight line.
It's not.
Is it? Absolutely.
That's part of what makes their stories so compelling.
Right.
I think.
Absolutely. And it makes you think.
It does.
Maybe there's something to be learned from both the savior and the destroyer.
Interesting.
Maybe we need both of those perspectives to fully understand the human condition.
That's a fascinating thought.
Yes.
It's like they represent two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, they do.
Right.
We can't have one without the other.
You can't have light without darkness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that complexity, that tension, maybe that's what keeps us coming back to these stories, generation after generation.
I think so.
They remind us that life isn't simple.
Life is messy.
Yeah.
Life is complicated.
There are no easy answers.
No easy answers.
And maybe that's okay.
Maybe that's okay.
Yeah.
Maybe embracing that uncertainty, that struggle, that's part of what makes life meaningful.
Makes it interesting, keeps us on our toes.
It's a lot to think about.
It is.
It almost makes you want to listen to something powerful and thought-provoking.
I know what you mean.
Speaking of powerful and thought-provoking,
there's
that song, Jesus Built My Hot Rod by Ministry.
Oh, yeah, I love that song. Oh, yeah. It's such a wild ride.
It is.
It's like religious imagery, but like heavy metal.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's like they took the energy of Tyler Durden and like put it into a song about like spiritual yearning.
It's rebellious.
Yeah.
It's irreverent. But there's something like oddly spiritual about it.
There is. It's strange.
It's so weird.
It makes you think about those lines we draw between like what's acceptable and what's taboo.
Right.
And maybe those lines are like more fluid than we think.
Blurry.
Yeah, blurry. Exactly.
It makes you think.
It does.
And maybe that's the point of it all.
Maybe.
To challenge our assumptions.
Yeah.
To push us outside our comfort zones.
Get us thinking different.
Make us question everything.
Exactly. And I think both Jesus and Tyler Durden, in their own like radical ways, did exactly that.
They did.
They forced people to confront those big questions, to look beyond the surface, and to like grapple with the complexities of the human experience.
And isn't that what we're all trying to do?
I think so.
In one way or another.
On some level.
To figure out what it all means. To find our own path. To make sense of this crazy, beautiful, messy thing called life.
Life is a trip.
It really is.
Yeah.
So on that note, we'll leave you to ponder those big questions.
Yeah, keep thinking.
And if you're looking for a musical soundtrack for your existential musings, we highly recommend checking out Ministry's Jesus Built My Hot Rod.
It's a good one.
It might just blow your mind.
It might.